Type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1.
On Spectrum tonight, what proposals are civil society organizations making to help the country overcome the current economic crisis?
Government continues to grapple with the current economic difficulties. Other stakeholders are putting forward ideas that they say can help the country overcome the challenge during both the short term and the long term. The economic situation remains tough, with inflation persistently high, and this with a scarcity of some key commodities whose prices have shot up dramatically. On its part, the government has waived taxes on sugar, promised to cut down on its expenditure, invest in more production, and also ensure that farmers receive the required incentives to be able to produce more food to cater for both the local and regional markets. It has been argued, and government also does agree, that it will require more than a political leadership to be able to come up with solutions that will bring about tangible results. However, some people remain bitter that government is adamant when it comes to taking advice, and are thus insisting on a national dialogue, saying only a national dialogue on the current challenge can help get us out of this hole. Civil society organizations, which have a duty of augmenting government on both social, economic, and political issues, among the key stakeholders, whose views will form the basis of our debate today. Our guests tonight, Mrs. Agnes Kirabo, Coordinator of Food Rights Alliance, also Communication and Advocacy Officer at VEDCO. You're most welcome, Ms. Kirabo.
Oh, thank you.
We also have Mr. Julius Mukunda, Senior Programs Director at FOWODE and member of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group.
Good evening, viewers.
FOWODE is the forum for viewers, because we're also in the internet.
Okay.
FOWODE is the forum for women in development. We're also joined by Hon Ishaa Otto, the Executive Director of Water for Life, Uganda. He's also former Member of Parliament for Oyam South. You're most welcome, Hon Otto. Let's start with you, Honorable. How did this problem get to this point?
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, the moderator, and my brother and sister. And of course, I want to greet the listeners, strongly viewers. That is a very tough question. How did it get to this level? I don't want to go back into the chronology of the whole thing. But as you know, we are now faced with two or three situations. One, we are handling a major economic matter, which is inflation, which is a very serious one. Two, we are handling the issue of prices of commodities, which is affecting ordinary citizens, every person. So these are two major economic things. The inflation, I want to bring the perspective how we do it to this. You remember, we are just out of an election. When we went for election, Parliament, as I remember, passed a supplementary budget of 602 billion shillings. This 602 billion shillings disappeared within the time of election. This money was in circulation. Unfortunately, it landed into very few hands. It was concentrated into pockets. And I'm seeing some few people now moving around to buy a plot today. After a month, they have a flat finished. So this money is now being injected in some of this kind of venture. That was really an effect in our economy. Two, 1.7 trillion shillings was pulled from the bank reserve, actually by government of Uganda, without even passing through normal procedure in Parliament. That money went to buy the jets, which we saw the other day being displayed. This money is all from our economy. How it is spent, we did not budget for it. It was not planned. It was just a matter of picking and giving. Actually, it's like picking a bucket of beans, just going to throw it away, because it has got no effect on the ordinary people other than long-term effect, which we don't even see, because we don't have any immediate threat as we can see. We don't see the immediate need for having military jets in our economy now or in our country now. So all these were effects on our economy. Thirdly, you also remember quite well that government had just printed new money. But I tell you something which is very strange. I don't know what this is. Somebody should explain to me this. We printed banknotes, new ones, yes. 1,500 and so on. But as we talk, this money are held back in the economy.
The old currency.
Today I went to the bank, they gave me only the whole currency.
Yes.
And remember, Bank of Uganda was withdrawing this money. And they were issuing new bank notes of currency. So what has happened? What has happened? What I assume, and somebody can deny it or can agree with me, what I assume is that during the election time, there was no control of our money anymore. Therefore, even Revenue Authority could have collected money and just given it to people who are campaigning without even going to the banking system.
Okay, we might not be able to confirm that, but as you said, it's a claim that is made. We might not be able to confirm that. Let's come to you, Madam Kirabo. What's your diagnosis of this problem?
Good evening, listeners and viewers of Some Time. Please, thank you so much, RT1, for this opportunity. Whereas Honorable looks at these issues from the economic perspective, I only want to bring the view of another perspective. And for me, two things. One, moderator, is that the social, political, and economic systems and the institutions of this country are all failing. And we have to agree on that. I don't even invite someone to deny it. It's a fact. And then secondly, what is making the situation even worse is not only the increasing prices of the commodities, but also the issue of food scarcity and increasing prices of food. I wanted us to get food out of the other commodities like soap and sugar and all that. So this makes it even more difficult. One, you were asking for the genesis of this whole thing. We have lived in this country for over 20 years, throwing away our duty and responsibility and to the open market.
Okay, go on.
Throwing away our duties and responsibilities to the open market and leaving the powers of demand and supply to take control over issues in this country, and including food. So this is where also one cardinal problem came from. Now, the country or the state doesn't have a record of how much food is being produced. It is working on assumptions that now that it rained in May, and this being August, there must be some bins somewhere. But they don't have a record over that, and they don't have they can't plan. Secondly, some of you have access to TVs over the weekend. You looked at this report. A lot of food in this open market is leaving this country, uncontrolled, unmanaged, unregulated. In the districts of the Greater North, the Sudanese drive in here, which is good to feed your neighbors, but it becomes bad if you've not fed yourselves first. The trucks come into this country, all the traders come in, they buy food from the farmers at flowering stage. Then the farmer...
It's called buying futures.
Then the farmer offers security of this food to ensure it is not stolen on estimation. And to their supplies, when the buyer comes back again for his or her produce, takes if in the case of cassava, takes the tubers, takes the future seed, which are the stems, yes, and even takes the leaves,
yes,
and then the trucks leave, and they go unattended to. In eastern Uganda, tons and tons of grain are leaving this country. Letting grain go out of the country unregulated, uncontrolled, means even the returns from that grain do not come into the treasuries of this country. Letting grain go as grain, you're sending our food,
The animals.
you're sending our seed, you're sending our feed for the animals. Then, if you put all these issues together, a country, a state that doesn't know how much food is being produced, how do I manage it, how do I store it, then it is in a crisis. Listeners must know that the post-harvest handling losses in this country are one of the highest. When a farmer manages in his or her rudimentary way of produces 10 kilograms of maize, the 4 kilograms don't reach the consumer. It is all lost in post-harvest handling losses. That dents on Ugandan's ability to have access to food. Now, the question is, the discussions like you have given a preamble to this too are like, let us invest in productivity. But investing in productivity is good, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when even the little productions of farming, 40% of it doesn't reach the consumer. We privatize the food storage systems. That means the acts of this state in the perspective of food are unconstitutional. When you go to the Constitution objective and directive principle 22, the state commits itself to ensure that Ugandans have access to adequate food. Mr. Moderator, sir, statistics has it that in a poor country typical like Uganda, the poor people spend 70% of their income on food. And then the remaining 30 goes to education, clothing, health, shelter, mention them. Again, the same statistics give it that in such a country like Uganda, if it faces challenges like we are experiencing now in this crisis, the poor who make almost 80% of Uganda's population, if it is 80% of 33, it goes to around 26 million. They are spending close to 90% of their income on food. Meaning now, they are not going to have access to clothing, they are suspending education, they are suspending all other social services. It becomes worse to the women. They are the chief food growers, but when hunger strikes like now it is striking, the men carry all of the food from the household, disguising that they are going to come back with the salt and the paraffin. And
become loaded in the head.
They come.
Singing songs.
So, my opinion is this is an extreme emergency that Uganda is facing. And it is not about what the politicians say.
Yes.
It is not about what the elites say. It is about the extreme form of poverty that is striking this country.
All right, we'll go deeper on that. Ms. Agnes Kirabo, Coordinator Food Rights Alliance, also Communications and Advocacy Officer at VEDCO. Let's come to you, Mr. Mukunda. How do you read this book?
I mean, I think there's a statement which says that whatever a man sows,
That shall hear you.
that he will also have the same. And I think that's what we have been. So the moment we start mismanaging the second, the moment we do not cut the cloth according to its own length, that's when we started. And for me, it is the whole issue of wasting our resources, investing in areas that are not productive, that do not benefit the poor. Currently, if you look at the way we are expanding on the number of districts, for example, yes, it tells you that we are really mismanaging this country's resources, because increasing on the number of districts does not in itself bring returns.
Take services closer to people.
We shall discuss that.
We shall discuss that.
Okay.
if you see yourself increasing the number of MPs, you can look at that itself. That's not going to bring productivity. Splitting the ministries and the cabinet ministers, that is not bring productivity. It is just getting the little resources we are generating and putting it, all of it, in making it a consumption expenditure. This is where the origin started from. And as civil society organization, we started way back and tell them, look, the way you are spending this money, time is going to come and you will be in serious trouble. And here we are, true to our word. And in the beginning we were telling them, okay, fine, do all what you can, but can you please invest in agriculture? They said, oh, fine, that's okay. They started with Program for Modernization of Agriculture, a very brilliant, good guiding framework for developing this nation. In the middle of it all, Bonaba Gagawale came in, focused on NADS only, dropped the issue to deal with marketing, financing was dropped, and everything was left to the private sector. A country like Egypt has 80 million people, and it feeds them. 90% of Egypt is a desert. How can we not invest in irrigation, for heaven's sake? With all the water that we have, the water bodies that we have. So for me, really, when I heard that the cabinet was again going to sit and look at these issues, that's fine. Maybe they're going to come up with some miracles.
That's the day the sugar conference.
Yes.
It was very successful. 18 hours, cabinet meeting for 18 hours.
Sugar
and they decided to slash.
Moderate, this is not about sugar.
The powerful conference they had.
It's not about sugar. And what they came up
Now
with,
they're having another meeting on Thursday.
the things I've been telling them every day. Look, farmers need soft loans. They said, okay, now we're going to give soft loans. Thank you very much. When is it starting? We told them inputs, fertilizers, for example. They said, oh, we're going to start up a factory in Toronto. Thank you. But where have they been?
The phosphate factory.
Yes, where have they been for?
They've been talking about it for 20 years. The phosphate factory.
For me, it really is
20 plus years.
It is practice. It is a practice for me. It is a practice. And I'm hoping that with this discussion, I have a list of areas I would add, because they said I want to reduce on non-priority areas. And I have a list. I've had an opportunity to look at the national budget. I have a list of where they can immediately cut, save money, and invest in these brilliant ideas of providing soft loans for farmers, fertilizers, storage, seeds. I'm telling that if we do that, then definitely we shall come up. But we are harvesting what we sow.
Listeners, this is Spectrum on radio. Tonight, what proposals are civil society organizations making to help the country overcome the current economic challenges? We're going for a break. Our guest tonight, Hon Ishaa Otto, Executive Director of Uganda, former Member of Parliament for Oyam South, Miss Agnes Kirabo, Coordinator of Food Rights Alliance, also Communications and Advocacy Officer, and Research Investment, Serious Programs Director of FOWODE, also a member of the Civil Society and Advocacy. We'll be right back.
Let's show you how to multiply your savings, starting with the cash beneath the mattress to the savings in the bank that aren't making money. Let's turn your savings into somethings with Super Save Reloaded. Super Save Reloaded brings you savings and investment accounts which offer you a sure and predictable way to multiply your savings. For more information about Super Save Reloaded, ask at your nearest Stanbic Bank branch. Stanbic Bank, moving forward.
3 times a year, every year for the past 6 years, I have been stressed going to pay school fees. I've woken up at the crack of dawn, taken 2 taxis, and a board finally arrived, filled out the forms. I have lined up between a guy with kavubuka and a guy with a nasty cough. And I've waited and waited, but no more now. I have moved on with MTN mobile money. So now I pay school fees directly from my mobile while I spend time with my children.
When you move on with MTN mobile money, your children can move on to greater things. And now everyone can pay school fees with MTN mobile money. So be one of the 100 people to win 100,000 shillings towards your next school shopping when you pay school fees with MTN mobile money.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back to Spectrum. Tonight on Spectrum, what proposals are civil society organizations making to help the country overcome the current economic challenges? Our guests tonight, Hon Ishaa Otto, Executive Director, Water Authority of Uganda, former Member of Parliament for Oyam South, Mrs. Agnes Kirabo, very knowledgeable, Coordinator, Food Rights Alliance, also Communication and Advocacy Officer at VEDCO, Mr. Julius Mukunda, Senior Programs Director at FOWODE, and member of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy. You two listeners will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Honorable, how do we get out of this?
You see, our president, who is the head of state, head of executive, commander-in-chief, the fountain of honor, and with all those powers, authority, and all those kind of power that he has, he's also an economist. That is what I'm told. Though I've not seen him. But I'm told
you want to see his paper before you believe.
Oh yes.
Happy are those who believe.
You see, this is where we have to face reality. We have reached to a level of facing reality. He's an economist. I think he studied this thing, and therefore, by now, he would have been the best advisor of all. In any case, if this problem is coming, he would have foreseen some of these situations. Anyway, the most important thing now is how do we come out of this? We are not going to address the symptoms of cutting taxes on sugar. Let me give you some simple, mathematics. In my village, people there, 80% of the people there drink local brew. This is Malwa.
That's what they get there.
About 20% go for sugar, for tea. Actually, in our home, it's only my mother who always take tea. So if you cut tax on sugar, what have you done? And the whole cabinet, the whole government retreats in Entebbe, State House, to consider economic crisis, food shortage, and to say we have cut prices of sugar. And you also know that what we are now facing is not merely sugar or what we drink. He's talking of entire food cycle. We are talking of entire economy. Now what have you done? So I think here, this is where we should be serious. That's why I started from saying our president is an economist. We should be serious and walk the talk and put our feet down, do analysis and research, and understand the state of our economy. Where are we?
You can tell us from your own analysis, what can we do?
For now, government has no option. They have to come out, listen to the brilliant ideas, listen to their own, actually implement their own programs. These good programs, are very good. NADS, PMA, and what, all these are very good programs. Policies, the constitution is very clear. Madam here put article, a provision in the constitution about principles and so on. The role of government. It is an obligation to provide food to the people. Government should come out clearly and say, here we are messed up. I want to insist that our problem is how we manage money, how we manage our economy. We just loot money to make us enjoy ourselves as individuals at the expense of the entire economy and the entire country. That is our problem.
What do you mean by that?
Look, this is obvious. When we went for elections, how much did we spend?
Well, people save their money, and after 5 years, they want to be elected and this money. What's wrong with that?
So what are we facing now?
Individual.
What are we facing now? So you see, and government must take responsibility and be government. A government has got a responsibility in trust of the people of that country. This is not what our government is doing. And I want to be straight and very specific to say, government now, first of all, look at the administrative cost, political cost. As he mentioned, we have now 370 something members of parliament. I was there. I opposed the creation of districts where I almost died there opposing. But who was listening to it? Because people are saying we are creating jobs, we are creating positions for others, and so on. Actually, by the way, I lost because of some of those arguments. Yeah, because people say these are the ones who didn't want districts and so on. So why should we elect them? But anyway, that's not the point. How much are we spending on non-priority areas? They talked about production. We signed protocol, the Maputo declaration, we did all these things, but we have never worked. We walk out in international conferences everywhere and we say, we have signed this declaration, we have signed this protocol, we have done this, we have this law, and so on. But we don't put this into practice. The only thing government can do now, how much do we have in our economy? What money? How much do we have? Where do we put it to boost the economy? Put it into production. It's very clear. Our economic base,
security comes.
to me, I want to tell you,